Hi, this is Jason Freeman, Professor and Chair at the School of Music at Georgia Tech. I'm here with video number 5 in my series on learning sound synthesis with VCV Rack. Once again, I want to remind you that the Georgia Tech School of Music is an awesome place. It's a great place to learn about music technology through our bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees. It's a great place to conduct innovative and groundbreaking research through our Center for Music Technology. And it's a great place for all students at Georgia Tech, regardless of their major, to pursue opportunities in learning about music, both music technology and more traditional music performance. If you want to learn more, you can visit music.gatech.edu or stay tuned for the final video in this series. In this video, we're going to bring together all of the things that we learned in the first 4 videos to make a larger, more complex patch with some truly weird and unusual sounds. And then we'll talk about where you can go to learn more about VCV Rack if you want to learn even more about what it can do. But for right now, let's go into Rack. I've got my default patch here, but I'm going to simplify a few things just to make some more space to work. I'm going to go ahead and delete that signal scope. I'm also going to delete the MIDI CV input because I'm not going to use computer keyboard input at all for this to play notes. I'm going to do that all with the step sequencer that we covered in the last video. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and create one of these step sequencers. Make sure I'm on the VCV section here. Click VCV, go to my Seek 3, drag that on. I'm also going to make one of those quantizers like what we used in the last video so that my pitches are tuned to the nearest equal tempered note. So here I am. I can hook up a few basics and get this going pretty quickly. I'm going to hook up row 1 to the quantizer input, and then the quantizer output will go to volts per octave. And then the gate is going to trigger the gate on my ADSR envelope. Yeah, I'm getting those repeated notes every time my sequencer hits a new beat. And I can start moving these sliders in row 1 around to get some other frequency content. And then I can go ahead and speed up my clock speed a little bit if I want that to be a little bit faster, a little bit more frenetic. Great, it's a good start. I'll turn off a few of these pitches too. Okay, and we've got a good start there. But it's not really grungy or weird or anything yet. It doesn't really satisfy my craving for weird sound. And so what I'm going to do next is add in some LFOs. I'll take an LFO 1. I'm going to use this one to do some FM synthesis to get all those sideband frequencies to appear. So I'll take the sine output of my LFO, plug it into the FM on my VCO, and turn up the FM CV knob. So now we're hearing it kind of slide up and down. But to really get this weird, I need to turn up my LFO frequency to a really fast speed. And if I want to go even further, I can go ahead and create a second LFO that controls the speed of the first LFO. So I'll hook up the sine of my second LFO to FM1 of my first LFO, turn up that CV control. Now I'm getting even more sidebands. I could even do a third one if I wanted to. But one of the problems here is that the sound's gotten so kind of saturated with all these weird sidebands that I'm losing a little bit of the sense of the original pitch content that's being controlled by my sequencer. So let's turn that CV down just a little bit there. Kind of tweak these parameters until I get something where I really feel like I'm hearing the original pitches a little bit more. There. That sounds pretty good to me. And then maybe what I'll do is play around with my VCF frequency content as well. So I'll disconnect that from the ADSR, just like we did in the last video. And instead, hook it up to row 2 here. And now, these are all pretty high. I'm going to go ahead and lower some of them so I get a little bit more of a contrast. So now I'm really hearing the difference between where the filter is set pretty low and where it's set pretty high. And I can play around with this CV amount here, again, to control how much these sliders are really changing that frequency knob for me. Next, what I want to do is not just have one VCO, but like we did in an earlier video, have multiple different VCOs. They're going into different channels of my mixer. So I'm going to go ahead and create a whole nother VCO here. And I'll create another quantizer and control the pitch of this with row 3 of my sequencer. So row 3 will go in there, quantizer will go out there, and then maybe I'll try a different waveform. This is using a saw wave, so maybe I'll use a triangle wave here. Hook that up. Sounds like an old video game system or something. It's a lot louder than what I'm getting on channel 1, so I can turn that down to balance the two a little bit better with each other. And maybe I want to turn off some of these pitches as well. And then I'm missing a little bit of a grunginess to that sound, so I'm going to go ahead and create another LFO that's controlling this. And I'll have the sine output from this LFO. In this case, maybe I'll have it control the amplitude and do AM synthesis instead of FM synthesis. So I put the sine wave here directly to my mixer. Speed that up. Now maybe I do have a reason to bring that back up a little bit. Okay, that's sounding pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and add a third channel. So I'm going to make another LFO here. Drag that in. And I'm going to have this one go into channel 3. I'm sorry, not another LFO here. What I want is another VCO. Because I want another oscillator to come in. Now I've run out of channels on my sequencer here, so I have a couple options. I could double up on these channels, which is I think what I'm going to do right now. I'll just use channel 3 to go to the end. I could also, of course, create another sequencer if I want to, but I'm running out of space here. I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to hook up the output of that quantizer over here to volts per octave on this. This one maybe I'll do is a square wave. And turn that down. Maybe I'll do some FM synthesis on this one as well. So I'll hook up an LFO. Have that go to FM. Turn that down a little bit. And channel 2 up a little bit. Just get a good balance in my mix here. Okay, so now I'm approaching the grunginess I'd like, but I want to do one more thing because I really feel like I'm not getting the gradual changes over time. I'm getting a nice cycle that's associated with my sequencer here, but I want things that kind of evolve a little bit more slowly too. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create one more LFO. But this is not going to be an LFO that's at a really fast frequency. This is going to be one that's at a really slow frequency. And so what this is going to do is I'm going to use this to control very gradual changes in some of my parameters. In fact, I may end up having several LFOs at slow rates that do this kind of stuff. The first thing I might want to change is the overall volume. So I'm going to take an LFO here and hook this up to the overall level of my mixer. And that's a little too fast, so I'm going to slow that down. It's really just a gradual crescendo, or increase in volume, and then a gradual decrescendo. Maybe that's a little too slow even. Something in between those two. Awesome. So it's kind of fading in, fading out, bit by bit, over time. That's very nice. Now, another thing I might want to do is have my third layer just on its own gradually fade in and out. So I can take an LFO, and I can go ahead and hook something up to the CV3 there, and only have it apply to that third channel, so that's coming in and out of the texture. A slightly different rate than my overall mix. So that's really sounding different now. That third layer is coming in and out. And some other things that I might want to change gradually are things like my filter resonance on my VCF. So just to make it a little easier to track cables, I'm going to go ahead and make room for another LFO over here. I'm going to have a gradual change in my resonance. And slow down the rate that that's moving at. So now on channel 1, we're hearing the sound change very gradually and slowly over time. And then the final thing that I want to play around with here, again, I've got to move some things around to make some more space, is with my ADSR. And so I'm going to go ahead and make one final LFO. Looks like I didn't clear off quite enough space for it here, so I'll drag these things even further. And now I can drag that down where we can see it. And I'm going to have this change my sustain level here, in terms of whether I'm decaying down to a really low level or staying at a relatively high level. And to make sure I can really hear that as we're going through, I'm going to go ahead and make a really fast attack time, really fast decay time, so I can really hear what that sustain level is. So there you have it. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can really see the whole patch all at once here. We've got a lot of different things going on here. A lot of different layers, all contributing to this really weird, gradually evolving texture with a lot of interesting rhythmic content and a lot of timbres that are changing little by little. And I could continue extending this. I could create something with 50 or 100 or 200 modules like this with complex connections going into mixer upon mixer upon mixer, all finally going out. So finally, I want to give you a few hints about where you can go if you want to learn more about VCV Rack and do more with it. Like I said in the first video, there are hundreds and hundreds of modules that you can install as plugins to VCV Rack, and kind of no end to what you can do with the system. So much so that it can become a little bit overwhelming. But I'd encourage you to take a few steps to learn more. First of all, any module that you have in your rack, you can right-click or control-click on it, and it pulls up a little context menu. And if you go to the first thing on it, this plugin menu, it gives you some information, including a link to a manual. Now, some of those manuals are incomplete and only include some basic information, and some of them are very, very detailed. It really just depends on the person that wrote the module and how much documentation they chose to provide. But that's often a very good first place to look for more information about how a module works and how to use it. The second thing I'd encourage you to do is, of course, go to the library menu and manage plugins. We already looked at, in an earlier video, how to install the Bog Audio library of plugins, which is an excellent library. We only looked at one module that's part of it, this analyzer module. But as you can see, there are many other modules that come with Bog Audio, which I strongly encourage you to look at. And most of them are fairly well documented. But there are many, many, many other plugins that you can install that give you other modules with other kinds of functionality as well that you can explore. And then finally, I'd really like to encourage you to check out this free electronic book called How to Rack by Jim Aiken. This is meant to be an introduction to using VCV Rack. It's a bit more advanced than most of the things that we've covered in this series of videos, and for that reason, it's an excellent next step to read that, go through the examples that he walks you through to create different things, and let that help you get to the next level of your work with the platform. So to wrap up this video quickly, we've learned how to make a larger, more complex patch by bringing together everything that we've learned so far about VCV Rack. And we've also looked at a few ways that you can learn more about VCV Rack itself through looking at the manuals for individual modules, downloading new plugins and modules, and looking at the How to Rack book by Jim Aiken. The next video, we're going to step back from talking specifically about VCV Rack and all the things it can do, and get back to the original motivation that I had in creating these videos in the first place, talking about what music technology is as a field of study and a field of research more generally, and looking at what Georgia Tech offers through its School of Music in terms of music technology education and research.